All right. Hi, everyone. This is Shannon Port, and I welcome you to our live stream today, our podcast. And so I put up a note to see if you can hear me. Just let me know in the comments in the live chat. So, oh, great. Thank you, Lucas. I appreciate that. All right. So, welcome. Today we are going to talk about the Cancer full moon, which is happening on December 22nd. And we are going to talk about something else very, very powerful. They're happening in a 24-hour window, the solstice, the Capricorn solstice. And so the Capricorn solstice, for me, it will be winter solstice. I am in the northern hemisphere. And then for those in the southern hemisphere, this solstice will be summer solstice. And so we're going to talk about the activation of solstice, and we're going to talk about the initiation and the mysteries that are that correspond to solstice. We're going to talk about some of the magic of this solstice. And so it's so good to be here. I was away for a few weeks, and so it's just so good to be back. And I appreciate the emails that I received from many of you. And I communicated with so many of you after that last video that I did. And so I missed you guys, and it's good to be here. Let's see. So I'll let you know how we're going to proceed with the video today. We're entering into a really, really powerful portal as we cross the winter solstice and the Cancer full moon and enter into the year 2019. When we hit 2019, we're going to be in a brand new archetype, and we're going to immediately have a partial solar eclipse in Capricorn. And that, I believe that first eclipse in Capricorn is going to be conjunct. It's going to be at 15 degrees, so it's going to be conjunct both Saturn and Pluto. So we're headed in. We're going to start off the year with a bang, with fireworks. And so this portal, this solstice season, and this Cancer full moon is really guiding us through over the threshold into 2019. I plan to do a video, especially just for the new archetype for 2019. I have that on the schedule. And then I also plan to do, obviously, I've already started working on the video for the solar eclipse in Capricorn. Today we'll start with solstice, and then we'll move into the Cancer full moon aspects. And so you just check in and see if there's some people here. Oh, it's nice to see you. Always. All right. So let's talk about the solstice. So winter solstice. So the way it works in the mysteries, and sometimes people ask, what are the mysteries? The mysteries are the great, great inner teachings and inner wisdom on the regeneration of the soul. And so the mysteries follow the solstices and the equinoxes, the precession of the equinoxes, and they very much are about the cycles that we are in, our cycles of awakening and our cycles of moving beyond the animal human being that we are and the intellect. The intellect is a beautiful, brilliant tool that we've been given through our ego. The intellect is like the masculine light that lights up our animal soul so that we have instincts, so that we know how to survive, we know how to think, we know how to have discernment, we know how to use logic and really, really use what would be a lot of the left brain tools, but as well as the right brain as well, because the brain is governed by the intellect. So the intellect rules our animal soul, and it creates a light so that we can exist, and so that we can even be, if someone just has their intellect awakened, they could be very, very smart. They could even be considered a Mensa or a very, very high IQ or academic scholar on Earth. But it's possible to be, to have great, great academic knowledge and even logic knowledge that is of the intellect, and not yet have touched into the magic of the intuitive soul. The intuitive soul, which is governed by this Cancer full moon and by solstice, is about it's the light of the intuitive self, and it's that light that lifts us up, that ascends our consciousness, so that we are able to partake of the great banquet feast of creation. It's like the prodigal son in the Bible that went out and was lost and experienced all the pleasures and the material the materialistic side of life, which can lead us into greed and lust and materialism and the illusion, until he burned himself out and then wanted to come back home to his father's mansion. It's really the father and mother's mansion, but the mother governs also the material world. And then she also governs that state of being that is represented by the Cancer, the sign of Cancer, and the archetype of Cancer. Cancer represents the mother deep. It represents the deep, deep power of our own inner God self, our subconscious mind, and that field. We're each an individual unit of consciousness, and we each have a God within us. We each have those waters of life, which are the Divine Mother, which hold our entire Akashic record, but they also hold the depths of stillness below all of the movement on the surface. It holds the great well of being. It's the root light of our life, and it's the source of everything. And so so she's trying to get us to wake up, because when we tap into that source, our intellect merges, our animal soul merges with our soul and our spirit. We experience an inner alchemy or an inner marriage that takes place in our heart, and we are able to perceive creation on a whole other level. And in fact, the reason, and we talk a lot about this at Art of the Feminine, and on the Facebook page, Art of the Feminine is dedicated to visionary artists and art and alchemy and the creative imagination of the Empress. When we are in those heightened states of creativity, when we're creating, and when we're streaming, we are touching our inner intuition, our depths of our intuition, and it's not linear. And so that's why it can be confusing if someone really, really thinks in terms of their intellect, and they're very, very left-brained, or they could be very, very smart, but they can only think or perceive or comprehend if things are very meticulously organized and linear. They're cut off from that, the chaos. The chaos is represented by Pisces and by Neptune, and it's that whirling motion of energy that is the deep feminine. That right and below that is the Cancer energy of pure being. And so when we create, we touch that energy when we're right. I use it a lot when I write, when we do many, many things, and eventually we want to be in that state all the time. We see people differently. We speak differently. We access what is known as divine love, because it's a universal love. It can still honor the particular. It still loves and desires intimacy. We don't want to abandon intimacy. There's a lot of the Eastern teachings go kind of borderline. Some of the Advaita teachings and some of the Zen teachings and even other teachings sometimes almost push away intimacy as if it's only for the phenomenal world, or only the I am the body self. But that's not quite true. The soul, actually, even the absolute, which is not identified only with a body, wants to come into form and to awaken in form. So it wants to understand itself as, I am a body, but I am a body with not only an animal soul, but with our intuitive soul as well. And so that's just a little intro about what some of these mysteries are about. Oh, it's so good to see some people have come on. So I'd been gone for a few weeks. And so, yes, I just got this message out today. Oh, it's so good to have you here. All right. So we will dive right into solstice, and we'll talk about solstice. I have the pop-out chat open, and I will check in with it in just a few and see if there's any questions. If you make questions, you can put them in all caps, and I'll be able to, they'll stand out. So I want to start by saying this kind of metaphysical quote. This is beautiful, because the Cancer full moon is happening when the sun is in Capricorn. That's the masculine and feminine. The moon will be in its own sign of Cancer at 0 degrees huge. So this full moon in Cancer is at an initiation point, 0 degrees, beginning of the sign. The North Node is in Cancer. I recommend that you go back and listen to that video if you want to know all about the archetypal energy of the North Node in Cancer. But so this is truly initiation. I almost called it solstice initiation, but we have another initiation video coming up. So solstice activation. Here is a quote that really represents the king and the queen. Love is the only king, the only creator, the only ruler. Love is the only king, the only creator, and the only ruler. And I really like that it says the only king, because it shows that the energy of the father and the king are also the birther of divine love. And so with Capricorn, we have so much focus coming in Capricorn. Oh my gosh. As we enter the new year with the eclipses, Capricorn, we're going to have Pluto is in Capricorn, Saturn's in Capricorn. Jupiter will be entering Capricorn in 2020, and we're on for some very, very intense, and it's like the finale for Capricorn, because Pluto's been in Capricorn, Saturn's activating Capricorn, and there's going to be so much happening in the patriarchal energy where this king is birthed. This is the birth of the Christic king, and it's so beautiful. I'm looking at my Christmas tree, the scene outside. It's winter here, and I celebrate Christmas. I also just celebrated Hanukkah a couple weeks ago with my son, and the holidays are truly a time of the heart. They're a time of the feminine. They're a time of festivities, of food, of lights, of gathering around the hearth fire, of gathering around family, of gathering around our parents, our loved ones. And even though the holidays oftentimes do come with trauma and drama, we even though they come with trauma and drama, that alchemizes us. That truly, as we all know, we have issues with our parents, we have issues with our siblings, with our friends, with going back home to the place where we grew up. I can't tell you how many of my mentoring mentees we talked about going home for the holidays, because they were all getting ready to go home for the holidays. And so there's a preparation in going home to be with your parents in perhaps the home that you grew up in, and to be around your siblings, your friends that you went through puberty with, or that you went to high school with. It's big. It's big because it activates, which is very Cancer, our Akashic memory, and those things that brought us to the place that we are now. It can trigger old wounds, but it can also open the heart with great joy. Which brings me to say, I think I'm going a little too nonlinear, but I'll jump back into this. I want to also touch on why intimacy and personal relationships are very important. Why we want to be in the now. We want to have universal love for everybody, but there are friendships and primary relationships that we have a depth of memory. We've built layer upon layer of experiences. And yes, that could be called our conditioning, but some teachings would say, you are not your conditioning, you are I am, and you are now. And this is true. And this is what the birth of this Christic light is about. But it's our memories and our experiences with another human being that open the heart and create a tremendous well of love. It's like, I thought of this. I remember there was a movie, and I don't know if I saw it, but I remember seeing the trailer for it. I can't remember what the movie is. If anyone remembers it, let me know in the comment section. But it was a movie about how somebody was in a relationship with somebody. I know this was just recently. And every time they woke up the next day, the person that they were with in relationship with didn't remember who they were. And they didn't remember the day before. And so every day in this relationship, they had to introduce themselves to their partner over and over again. And the partner had no memories of the past with this person. So I thought about that today when I was kind of downloading for this video. It's important when we have an intimate relationship with someone, and this ties into some of this energy for the Cancer full moon, because it's really about emotions. Mars and Venus are both in water signs, so it's about emotions and relationships. We kind of rely on the fact that our partner will remember who we are, because it's part of the joy and the artistry of intimacy and relationships that our partner remembers those special reasons why they're with us. Our partner remembers why they had children with us, or why we built this home together, or why we chose to be together. Memory, and sometimes women will be offended, because women, we tend to have a little bit better memory sometimes about these things that are emotional. The feminine is the Akashic record, so she records all these things. Our subconscious mind is our Akashic record. It records everything. And so we like that our partner remembers us, because there's something about it. And I'll be talking more and more about that throughout the year with the North Node in Cancer, but it's part of this. And so let's talk about divine love and the solstice. So the winter solstice, we go by the sun moves north. And so in the mysteries, even if you're in the South, I have lots of friends in Australia, lots of friends having a summer solstice right now. But the emphasis for the collective, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this in just a moment, is following where the sun moves towards the north, because ascension and the raising of consciousness is rising. And so we follow the path of the sun as it moves northward in the mysteries. And so so it's winter solstice for the sun right now. The sun is giving birth in the dark. The mother principle, which is all about Cancer, the sign of Cancer, the mother, the moon, and the North Node being in Cancer really, really heightens this. It makes it times 100. That this mother principle this year is so on, and for other reasons too. She's birthing the Christ child in the heart, the archetypal solar logos, the solar consciousness, which is the awakening of that the intuitive soul that guides the animal soul and raises it up so that it can go beyond the 5 senses, which are represented by the pentagram, and be governed by spirit, or by the Akash, by the ether, by the quintessence light, which is birthed by the galactic womb, which is at 26 to 28 degrees Sagittarius. And so we're in the energy of that right now. That energy is heightened right now, especially with Jupiter in Sagittarius. I also recommend you listen to the last videos, Jupiter in Sagittarius. Lots of information on the archetypal energy of Sagittarius and Jupiter in Sagittarius. And when I did North Node in Cancer, lots of archetypal energy about what we're talking about right now. If you want to go back and pick that up, those videos will both be good all year. So right now, it's this mother principle birthing in the dark womb. And so there was one other thing I was going to say about, okay, the sun. Oh yes. Okay. So it's the solar logos. It's birthing. It's our ascension. And it's the birth of the Christ child, which is an archetypal energy that exists in every single tradition it can be found, is represented by this winter solstice. It's when it's when the divine love sacrifices itself to come into the densest part of creation, into the very darkest day, to birth itself so that it can regenerate our own inner dark. It's also associated with the goddess Kali, who works through the dark, but it's about our shadow, our dark, our underbelly, and it's about raising it up. It's about the prodigal son beginning his journey home. And so I have jotted down a couple things about the solstice activation. It comes at the holidays for a reason, because in the northern hemisphere it's cold. We gather around the fire. We come in. It's dark. The days are short. We come in. We gather around this fire and we celebrate with loved ones, and we kind of bow in humility for the journey that we've been on with friends and family. And again, I know a lot of us have huge wounds with our family. So I want to honor I'm going to take a check on, it's good to see you. I'm going to take a check at the, going to look at the chat in just a second. I have to pull it up. We gather around to be humble. Everybody knows when you go home, even though there's that thing you can't stand about going home, or that you're afraid about going home, there's something about going home which is really what the journey of ascension is about, going home, that sparks our heart. And it's really sacred. It brings humility because I know that that the older you get with each decade, you begin to look at your family, at your parents, and you start to understand the mystery of being born as a human, as a human being or a human animal, because we're really born in this kind of animal um, consciousness. And we've come here to awaken our heart so that we can raise it into the divine consciousness. And so, this is a really sacred time. All of this information, astrology is only meant for us to be creative and to become humble. We see it, it's a tool for us to look at the aspects, and we're going to look at all the aspects of the Cancer full moon in just a moment, and to say, oh, the great creator has given me these joyful tools to create with because we want to be here. The absolute projects itself into form so that it can play and so that it can experience reality. Some traditions are about leaving reality, but I believe, and in the all the work I've done and really going deep with the divine feminine, we have to embrace both. We have to understand that we've come into matter to awaken more of the divine, because the divine, art, which is really all of us, has a plan, and we are all, each one of us, are sounding the note of our plan. And that's another thing to know, that when you sound your note, that's all you have to do. There's a place for you. I'm thinking of that song, There's a Place for You. There is a place for me, and there is a place for you. I think there's a Bible quote that says, My Father has prepared a place for you. We have a place in the kingdom on earth as well as the higher kingdom. We each have our designated place. Our only work is to be in that place. In that place, we have all power, and we resonate with everybody. When we're in our own place, we are sounding our own gifts, our own note, and we have more freedom than we have when we try to be every place. When we try to be something we're not, we actually contract. It's Saturn contracting us. We don't, our gifts start to, they get dispersed and they get kind of broken up. But when we come into our place, they get really potent. They get really focused, and there's no competition. There doesn't need to be, because we all have a note to play. And we begin to harmonize with everyone around us. And so that is also what this is about, is knowing that as a child of the light, you've come into matter. And although there's a lot of pain at times and a lot of suffering at times, when we know our place, even those burdens, and even, I know a lot of us are going through serious alchemy right now, but even those burdens become joyful. And that's what's meant in a lot of the spiritual teachings of the East, that everything, even the pain, becomes like joy because we're in our place. And so we know we're doing the work that we've come to do. I'm going to take a peek here and see, oh yeah, birthing heaven on the new world. Absolutely. How would we find out what our place is? That's really great. Okay. Inner child work. Yes, Azra, absolutely. Yeah, it's the inner child. And that's what going home at the holidays is about. It's about when we go home at the holidays, we're reconnecting with our inner child. And some of us even go home and sleep in the bed we slept in as a child. That's huge. And there can, even though that can be bring things up, it can also, we can do a huge amount of merging the future with the past and healing it in the moment. We go to our past, we're in the moment, and we project our future, a healed version of our inner child. Our inner child is always wanting to be healed, and the Christic light that's born at this time is the best friend of our inner child. They are merging together. Our inner child with our inner Christ become one. In some of the teachings, it's called the magical child. So I'm going to take one more peek at this and just see. Oh, good question. Why do so many urgent crises, climate change, and overconsumption to pollution To negative drug use. Oh, I'm glad you brought up drug use, Lucas. I know I've seen you mention that a lot, and I've been meaning, oh, I want to talk about that really quick. And then I'm going to talk about that more in another video. Okay. Urgent crisis with climate change, overconsumption to pollution, negative drug use. How do we know how to prioritize these concurrent crises? Should we focus on just one? That is really, really, that is the question of the moment right now. There is because I know in my work too, I've always followed the truth movement. I've always followed all of the, like, I know it all. I mean, I've mentioned in other videos, I was born kind of busting through and seeing different realities. So obviously that puts you in touch with different conspiracies and different truth movements and everything. I like to get a view of what's happening in the collective. So I check in with these things, but I definitely have something, this is coming through my filter, but something that's been coming in very, very strong right now. And so I'm really glad you asked that. Right now, oh, I'm going to be touching on this in more videos because there's more depth to it, but I don't want to mix it with this video because some of it's a little bit harder to talk about. But there are different agendas pulling for our loyalties and our allegiance. You don't have to worry about hitting the right agenda. I mean, now people are starting to show their true colors. So there's different movements that have been masking as being about one thing, and they're starting to reveal the foundational energy. It's okay. There's a place for everyone and everything. When I teach sexuality, which I've taught years of sexuality, healing sexuality, I always say there is a path of sexuality, as many paths of sexuality as there are human beings on this planet. And that goes for everything. Everyone has a right to be here and to sound their note. However, there's also this this dance of polarity integration happening. A lot of movements, you'll watch them for a while, and then you'll realize it. You'll feel something. Follow your intuition, and don't judge it, because I know sometimes it's easy to say, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. This is so awful. I thought it was this, but it's not. It's this." It's okay to have that moment where you wake up and you see it and you realize you're probably not as aligned with it as you thought you were. However, you'll do yourself a favor by just allowing it to be. Just allowing it has a place. Everyone that's doing this work is calling forth, just like everyone working with any kind of creativity or spiritual teaching has a group of people that are meant to hear that. And oftentimes we go into something, I've talked about this a lot, we go into the dark of a teaching so that we can learn. And that's why it's important. A lot of people are trying to be the saviors of all the dark teachers or dark tantra. You got to be careful about trying to be the savior for other people and pointing the finger at other people. And I know I'm working with a lot of people who are connected to different groups. There's kind of these spiritual wars happening right now where everyone's pointing the finger, and it's true. There are some teachings and some teachers that are maybe using manipulation, emotional manipulation and tactics. It's okay to point them out, but be careful about going too deep into that. It's that saying, he or she who has no past to hide or no dark to hide can be the one to throw the first stone. Be careful about that. A lot of the times, and I know I can speak for myself, we go into these things because we learn a big spiritual lesson and we grow leaps and bounds. We gain spiritual seals, initiations in our auric field. When we go into something and then we wake up and we see it for what it is, it may just be that it's not right for us. We receive light, we receive power. That is it if we let it go. If there's something specific that we see that's awful, and we see people funneling in and we think it's appropriate to wave a red flag, then use discernment and do that. But be careful about trying to take people down or take people out. It's not a great path, because it will end up, this is a metaphysical teaching and a deep teaching. What we wish for others, we get ourselves. What we wish for others, including the dark, we get ourself, and there's a reason for that. We live in polarity, and so what we project and see happening to others, we ourselves get to take a bite out of that that thing. We get to taste it. We get to drink from that cup. So there's a lot more to be said, but I'll just leave it at that. I want to talk about drugs for a moment because I know you've brought up drugs a lot. Drugs are big right now, and this is what I'll say because there is a lot of and this comes with sort of the Cancer. This is you'll see. Oh gosh, I got to speed this up a bit. But at the Cancer full moon, Neptune is squaring Jupiter and Mercury. That means the mind and Jupiter's expansiveness. Jupiter rules addiction because everything it touches, it expands. Neptune rules addiction. Mercury rules our mind and our ability to be present in our mind. Neptune will be squaring exact at the Neptune's 13 degrees of Pisces, will be squaring Jupiter 9 degrees Sagittarius, and Mercury 10 degrees Sagittarius. I said that, Pisces, yes, and Sagittarius squaring each other. This can bring in a lot of confusion, escapism with drugs. Neptune's in its own sign. Pisces rules drugs, rules escapism. Right now, I can't tell you. I mean, I can't go into specific details because obviously these things have to do with, people's personal lives, but how often I'm hearing from people who have had a huge awakening about altering their consciousness through drugs, even drugs that are considered medicine. You have to remember it's an earth frequency. Earth medicine is the earth frequency. We love the earth frequency. But there's different frequencies of the earth. And if you take the earth medicines in a certain consciousness, it can show you something, maybe one time, maybe twice, 3 times you might have to stand back. It can open your perception to understand that there's another reality, but it opens the lower astral doors. And so in the astral plane, good spirits can come as disguised as bad spirits, and bad spirits can disguise themselves as good spirits. It's the land of the tricksters, and it's really our own subconscious mind. So we dive into that well, and we experience all kinds of sensations and feelings and euphoria and fear. And we have to remember it's our own astral, it's our own labyrinth. And the Christ force that we're talking about birthing, the solar logos, has a very, very tiny part in that, but not much. That light can't dip very low into that realm. It's a realm. When we go into the Christic light, this is no judgment. I just want to be really serious that there's no judgment here. But what we have to be of our own pure consciousness and our own abilities to open those solar centers, our pineal gland, our solar plexus, and of course the heart, the throat, and all of the others in our third eye. But the pineal gland and the solar plexus are really, really connected to the solar centers. Those centers need to be crystal clear and pure. It's not for everybody because it takes a while to get accustomed to living that way. It doesn't mean we can't have pleasure in this world. It doesn't mean we can't, partake of a little bit of this or a little bit of that. Certain things are much more addictive, so we have to be careful. There's tragedy. My son and I saw the movie Beautiful Boy, and it was touching. It was, it was really awakening. I think the boy played, someone similar to my son's age, and I've seen this kind of addiction. It's very, very sad to lose the soul to addiction and to escapism, because it can make us feel like we're really in the heart, because we can be really sensitive and really caring, but it's actually things like even alcohol in a high dose saturates the heart and pulls it into the lower realms. And so with addiction and with drugs, don't preach. I'm giving a little bit right now, but I feel like it's the right time. I try not to hold back from that a lot of the time, but it's the right time because I'm hearing from people that are waking up, that are in the middle of a journey or a trip or this or that. I've had people call me from ceremonies, literally at the ceremony, saying, I need to I'm ready to step aside from this. And lately, many things. What's happening is that we're walking the line of insanity and ascended. So there is a fine line between going the route of insanity and going the route of ascended. It's represented by the archetype 16, the tower, and the mind can easily fall into insanity instead of the higher consciousness. And so it's really the above and the below. And so it takes a lot of discernment. And as we start to taste the real light, oh, we know that our consciousness is our gold. We want purity more and more, not because of it's not even morally. It's not a moral decision. It's an artistic decision that the taste and the expansion of a pure consciousness is, and I can say from experience, I definitely had plenty of experience in my early 20s with all kinds of things and got to taste many different things, and I know all about it. I have the right archetypal energies to go into escapism, a lot of Venus, a lot of Neptune. I've tasted it. So I'm speaking from experience too, that when you go into by the way, a lot of indigos, a lot of high level souls do go that way because this world is intense for us. And so at a certain time, the dark pulls us into escapism and we go into that route. We come out of it much stronger. But I've tasted both. And I can say when you begin to taste the purity of consciousness, the waters of it's represented in the moon, the white, that's why the moon is white. It's when you taste that, you realize the power is so much greater. The visions, the archetypal visions are so funny, I just got that email. Are the archetypal visions are way more powerful than any kind of trip in the astral plane. That's what the archetypes of consciousness that I work with at Art of the Feminine are about. They're the higher, pristine archetypes of consciousness to create with. That being said, I know I said a lot on that, but yes, it's like samadhi. And samadhi, some teachings on samadhi are about leaving the physical, but we embrace the I like to honor both, to go into samadhi and then bring your samadhi back into practice with those people you meet. Okay, I'm going to pull up the chat because I see there's a question. And okay, so what I wanted to say also, Lucas, is discern if something starts to make you feel a little weird. And I'm not talking, sometimes teachings will, when they wake us up, will feel uncomfortable. When your vibration starts to feel like it's contracting like Saturn, step away from it. We have to find our own inner purity. That's why I say every day, find music, find chanting, find some practice. I start every day, the early hours of the morning, where you tune yourself, align yourself, because you dip into your power and then you take it with you through your day. It doesn't have to be some profound spiritual practice, some big lineage, some big mystery school teaching. Just what moves your heart and lets you experience stillness. Start every day that way. And when you find yourself in any kind of trauma or drama, even at the holidays, step aside and go into that space for 3 minutes. 11 minutes if you can. 11 is a profound amount of minutes to go in, but a few minutes. So, all right. Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't know if I saw that movie, 50 First Dates, but Drew Barrymore, yes, it's so funny. I remember I actually lived in LA when she was experiencing a lot in her childhood, and through friends knew a lot about it. But that's an example. So, I saw something. I'm just going to look. A pure intention, how to connect to that energy. Yes. And I'm going to make a point to talk more and more and more about that. Thought I saw something else somewhat. Okay. Oh, I see it. I'm used to life being somehow hard. However, things are starting to feel more easeful. Oh, that's nice. Part of me feels like I'm not ascending if things are not hard. Can I soften into this and trust? Oh, that's a beautiful question. So here with that, we have cycles. And I know who you are. So I know, and I remember, yes, at different times in our life, every 7 years is a cycle. And so, at different cycles, we are experiencing different things, and we're meant to. And even this is what astrology is about too. There's times when the momentum is giving us a lot of help, and things seem to be coming to us. In this world, it's always a good thing. We honor that. We're happy when we're being supported, when there's abundance, when things are good. However, there's also the universe knows when it's time for a evaluation. And so when things are good, that it's like when things are good, that's a time to really be awake. So traditionally, like with escapism, with drugs, with alcohol, with partying, with that whole scene, and I know I lived in LA for a long time, so I'm thinking back to the days, and someone mentioned the celebrity. I won't say her name again, but there's a lot of escapism that can make you feel really good and really on and really like celebrity, like your own in your own thing, and it can be fun to get a taste of that. But then there's also the legitimate rewards and honors that come for the work we've done, or we're just in our on our path and we're meant to be recognized and receiving and flowing. When times are good, that's the best time to be awake, because the divine mother within us rewards us if we can stay awake in the good times. That means having discernment and just feeling it. Doesn't mean we have to be a a damper on those good times, but pay attention in the good times, because most people fall asleep in the good times. That's why oftentimes on the spiritual path, you will not be born really rich. You won't be born in the ideal family. You won't be born where things are handed to you. If you have a lot of Saturn, oftentimes bigger rewards, or meaning the bigger kinds of recognition. And by I don't mean ego recognition, but the birthing of your true mission and force will come a little later. You'll get lots of moments, but the real gift comes after you're spiritually mature and you've experienced different things. So, but everybody is on their own path. So most people, what happens is when things are good, when they're rich, when there's a lot of women, when there's a lot of men, when there's a lot of sex, when there's a lot of materialism, when there's a lot of likes and views on YouTube, when there's a lot of social media, a lot of Instagram, when it feels like it's good, which is very good, people fall asleep. Either that, and I've seen this with some people I really love, and with no judgment, because they're much younger and they're just going through that stage, is that you can fall asleep and you go a little more materialistic, and it's good for a while, and it's really good. This is like celebrity in Hollywood. Think about celebrities. They're on top, they're rising, they're in their youth, their glory. They marry the right person, they get all the right films, they get the awards. And everybody loves them. Their picture is everywhere. And then there's the crash. And that's an archetype for falling asleep in the good times. This is a spiritual lesson on walking the middle path. You notice the celebrities that have staying power, or that go into deep addiction and then come back, um, are humbled. They take it slow. They develop their craft. They make wise choices. They're not afraid of their failures, but they're not trying to. The ego isn't as out front. It's not as I'm a celebrity. They're a little more low key, and their careers, the trajectory of their careers is much longer. They, through wisdom, walk the path. And so they have the good times in their youth. They have the good times in their next level of youth, and then on into middle age and well into old age. They're still working and they're still enjoying. And that's mostly the fruits of this world, but it's the same with spiritual work. Be awake in the good times and see the lessons, because you'll be rewarded for that, if you don't go unconscious. In the bad times, be awake just the same. And the initiations never stop coming when we're on the path. And I know you're on that path. The initiations, when you look at the initiations, be honored. When you're getting a big initiation, it means you have a big path. When you're conscious of that initiation, you're aware of it. Most people, when they get hit with it, they don't realize that they're being asked to step up. They just see it as trauma and drama, and they're a victim. But then eventually you get hit enough times, you're like, oh, wow. If you look back in your life, you realize every time something was hard, when you made it through. I'm not kidding. I could go through my life and write 10, a trilogy about all the different levels of initiation, things that I thought I was never going to make it through. And now I look back and I bow to the intelligence of the divine for I thought I was awake and at those times, and I was awake on a certain level, but those challenges, they brought so much more love for self, love for others. And so okay, I'm gonna go really quick. I want to say a couple more things. I always look at the questions after, so I'll roll them over. If I miss any question, I don't mean to, I'll roll it over. Somebody asked about finding your place in life. Oh yes, connecting to that place. What can you do? I, work with sound, I have some sacred music I work with. I have some chanting, and I also work with silence, a couple moments of silence. I write, everything you do creatively will take you to that place. You'll develop your own, and I'll talk about more. Maybe I'll bring in some specifics, but you, I like sound because with sound, and I work with mantra as well. With the sound, you create a resonance, and when you hear, it's like if you hear a song that you loved 3 years ago, or when you were dating so and so, or when you were at this stage in your awakening as a human being in adolescence, you hear that song. What does it do? It takes you right back. Music and vibration has the power. When we hear it, our heart responds to it, we go right back. So if you have a mantra or a sound that I work with these in light body yoga, and I work with these when I teach it, that activates that place with you, stick with it, use it. That's the purpose of that, so that you can tune yourself, and then instantly, it's like, so if pick a piece of music that you really love, and that will work. One song that you have on your phone or your whatever, and you just plug it in the morning. Listen, I do it early in the morning before the sun comes up, and it will start your day really well. Okay. All right, so it's the mother principle. So I wanted to say the mother principle is active here. The mother principle, Cancer North Node. Watch the video if you haven't seen it. This is the era of the mother. When we go in, where I'm telling you, these eclipses, 2019, 2020, are so big for all of us. Oh my God, in the next two videos, I'm gonna talk a lot about that. I'm gonna talk about the archetype for, oh no. Oh, I'm going to talk about the archetype. I don't know if I can avoid that call. I'm going to talk about the archetype for 2019 and the solar eclipse in Cancer or in Capricorn. But the mother, the divine mother, is awakening. The divine mother governs our regeneration. She governs the mysteries. We each have her living inside us. She is the one that that governs all of our awakening process. So that what with the North Node in Cancer, the Mother Deep is active. She is working at all of these coming eclipses in ways that are so profound. So this is the darkest day of the year in the North, and so it represents the sacrifice of the spirit being birthed through the power of the mother, the divine feminine principle. We each contain light and dark, and these solstices and equinoxes are where we do the alchemy of our own light and dark. This is about the heart. It's really about divine love. I know divine love has kind of become a overused or cliche. It's a very real frequency. And as I always like to say, more than any knowledge that I could say here, I could go on and on and on for hours and hours about different things that I know or I've realized. It's the frequency of love that you embody. And when the other thing about going through initiations and going back to that last question about when things are going well, sometimes when those things, especially in relationships, are huge, intimate relationships, whether they're friendships, whether they're with ourself, intimacy develops our capacity to love. And when a human being has gone through many initiations in love, you will feel it. You will hear it in their voice, and you will see it in their eyes. You will feel it in their touch, because it brings you to a place of understanding what it means to be that Oh no, that's my son calling. I don't know how to turn this off. Okay, so it's the love of the mother. Speaking of, it's so huge. I can't even. Oh my God, it's so big, and we're going to talk about more about that. We all are a mother to something or someone. Doesn't we don't have to birth a child, but okay. So the intuitive soul, we covered that. So I'm going to talk about the Cancer full moon really quick, and yes, the Cancer full moon, as I mentioned. Neptune will be squaring Mercury and Jupiter. Neptune is in Pisces, squaring Mercury and Jupiter. That's huge because that's going to be, that's where we could see a lot of heightened speaking, singing, talking, and creativity. The mind's going to be really stimulated. It's a square, but we could also see huge deception on the planet because Neptune can also be squaring. Jupiter expands anything it touches. The archetype of Jupiter is going to blow it up. Whatever it is that comes in for you at this full moon, it will be really heightened, really big. Neptune's in a water sign. It's in its own sign. The other thing I want to say is Venus is in Scorpio direct. That Venus retrograde was huge. It was very potent. Venus will be trining Neptune. And so Venus and Neptune together, Venus is conjunct Ceres. Venus is at 14 degrees Scorpio, Ceres at 70s. Ceres rules motherhood. Mother's the power of the mother. So because this full moon is Cancer, the moon is in Cancer, its own sign. This is about the power of divine love, the mother. It's within 24 hours of winter solstice, which is about the mother birthing the solar logos and the Christ light. This is huge. I'm talking fast now because I know my phone's going to ring again. So this is really beginning our mysteries of regeneration that are taking place. 2019 is a really, really powerful archetype. I'm not going to tell you what the name of the video is, but please tune in for that video. What else? Okay, I have the, okay, here's the rest of the aspects. Mars will be conjunct Chiron, Mars in Pisces at 23 degrees, a water sign. Venus is in a water sign, so the divine Mars and Venus are both in the water. That's emotions and relationships. Conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer. Chiron is 27 degrees of Pisces. So we have Mars, Chiron, and Neptune all in Pisces. That's a lot of spiritual water energy. Again, full moon at 0 degrees of a cardinal sign of Cancer in its own sign. That's an initiation. 0 degrees starts us. I believe this is our initiation, truly kicking off the North Node in Cancer. Uranus is retrograde in Aries, squaring the nodes exact. 28 degrees Aries squaring the nodes at 28 degrees Capricorn, 28 degrees Cancer. Lilith is conjunct the South Node. I mean, that tells us where our karma is going. South Node is karmic. Lilith, the wounded feminine, the dark feminine. This is all the regeneration that's happening with Capricorn and Cancer is going to be huge, absolutely huge. All right. So, I think that is it. We're going to continue this. The human being is rising up. The human being is rising up and coming into its divine self. This is what I wanted to say. It is 6-year anniversary of 2012. The solstice at 2012 put us through the portal, the 2012 portal. This is huge. I'll talk about this in the next video, but I forgot to say this at the beginning. We are entering into the Saturn year of the 2012 portal. Every 7 years is a cycle. We're in the 7th year. As we cross over solstice, we're in the karmic year of 2012. That means what started at 2012 is now in its karmic cycle. What the rewards and the fruits of that, as well as the karma of that, are coming in 2019. It's the 7th year of the 7-year cycle of the 2012 portal. December 19th, which today's December 19th, was the first Art of the Feminine podcast on iTunes. It's where I really brought forth about 15 years worth of work that I had been doing with the Divine Feminine and started to put it in a podcast on iTunes. I did that podcast on iTunes for a few years. I haven't put it in the description box yet, but all those podcasts are still up. All about the divine feminine wisdom, the alchemy of the goddess, all the teachings on sexuality. But today is actually the 6-year anniversary for Art of the Feminine because we started that podcast 6 years ago today on December 19th. It started on iTunes. They're all also in the archives on YouTube, so you can find them on this channel on playlists. Um, there's a wealth of information, and that they haven't gotten many views because they were all uploaded from iTunes to this channel in like 1 week, and so they didn't even circulate. It's a treasure house waiting if you are interested in that. um, Look at the playlist. I will put the link to the iTunes podcast. I wish you the most amazing winter solstice, summer solstice. Merry Christmas. It's archetypal energies of the holidays are divine. It's the feminine, it's the hearth fire. Enjoy. And I will be back like right after Christmas to do the Cancer new moon solar eclipse. I mean, the Capricorn new moon partial solar eclipse, and a separate video for the archetypes of 2019. That being said, I'm getting ready to start 3-month mentoring at Art of the Feminine. I will announce that in the next video. I'm going to start in January. Some people wanted to start in December. I've already talked to you. We can do that. And some people I've already started with, but winter session for 3-month mentoring. I will be posting a link to that. I'm going to come back and put it in the description box. But if you're interested in working with everything we talked about in a coaching platform, it's really powerful. And you can find the information in the description box. That being said, I wish you all the joy in the world. I'm going to just check oh, did I miss anything? Hey, you guys, I have to say, I know it's YouTube, but I feel so much love. Oh my God, it's so nice to see you. Oh, Janae, hey, okay. Thank you, everybody. I love you. I'm sending you deep, deep love. I can feel you guys. When I was gone for a few weeks, I could feel you. And it's this connection, this network that's building. And so I send you love. Namaste. And I'll see you next time.